Family Guy's continuity isn't just broken. It's shattered beyond repair. Characters die, come back, age backward, and sometimes exist in two places at once. It's like the writers are speedrunning through alternate universes just to see what sticks. The result? A timeline so inconsistent it makes multiverse theory look organized.
It's just some sort of weird, low-resolution, blocky universe.
Lois, where is my supper?
Still in the oven!
Joe Swanson's disability works on cartoon physics. 1 week he can't climb into bed without help. The next he's flipping over fences, bench-pressing criminals, and crashing through windows like a caffeine-addicted superhero. In The Perfect Castaway, he dives headfirst into the ocean to save Peter. A bold move for someone paralyzed from the waist down. Then 2 episodes later, he's emotionally crushed because he can't reach the TV remote. The inconsistency turns Joe's paralysis into a personality quirk more than a condition. 1 episode he's helpless, the next he's practically Batman with a badge. The writers clearly forget what show they're writing from scene to scene. If he's that strong, how's he losing to Peter in an arm wrestle? The emotional whiplash doesn't help either. We've seen Joe deliver tearful monologues about acceptance, only to immediately leap from a building to catch a thief. Continuity-wise, his spine has a better recovery speed than Wolverine. At this point, Joe isn't paralyzed. He's just paralyzed until it's inconvenient for the joke.
Thank you.
Peter and Ernie the Giant Chicken have been fighting for over 2 decades, and the continuity surrounding their rivalry is pure chaos. Every time they battle, they destroy half of Quahog. Skyscrapers collapse, planes explode, the ground literally splits open. And by the next episode, everything's back to normal. No rubble, no recovery, no lawsuits, just another day in Quahog. In blind ambition, they tear through multiple cities. In Meet the Quagmires, their fight somehow ends in an alternate timeline where Lois marries Quagmire.
What can I say? I'm a vegetarian. Oh!
Then in later seasons, the feud restarts with zero explanation, like they both respawned off-screen. What's wild is how self-aware the show is about it. The writers even play the theme song mid-fight, like they know we're watching a continuity disaster in real time. Still, no character ever acknowledged that their entire city was flattened by poultry-based warfare. Either Quahog has world-class construction crews, or the timeline reboots after every punch. At this point, Peter and the Chicken have fought across so many universes, it's basically Family Guy's version of the MCU. Except their only superpower is ignoring property damage. No one in Quahog has suffered more from continuity neglect than Meg Griffin. Her age changes like a broken scoreboard. 16 in one episode, 18 in another, and somehow still in high school after 20 seasons. By the show's math, she should have grandkids by now. Early on, Meg was awkward but talented. She spoke Italian, played piano, and dreamed of leaving Quahog. Then the writers decided she worked better as a punchline. Now she's treated like the human version of a cutaway gag, a setup that exists purely for the insult.
Am I supposed to eat this?
What's confusing is that Meg occasionally reverts to her original smart self. In one episode, she's valedictorian material. The next, she's screaming at the family to remember her name. Even her voice changed from Lacey Chabert to Mila Kunis when unacknowledged, despite the show's obsession with fourth wall jokes. If Family Guy ever wanted to fix its timeline, they'd have to pick a version of Meg and stick with it. But since chaos is the show's true religion, she'll probably stay 17 forever, because apparently that's just how time works in Quahog. Brian Griffin is easily the show's biggest philosophical mess. He's an atheist who's met God, a liberal who dates Republicans, and a vegetarian who eats meat when it's convenient for the plot. In I Dream of Jesus, he literally meets Jesus performing miracles, and a few episodes later he's back to mocking religion like it never happened.
I'm sorry, I just don't see any evidence.
His moral compass points wherever the writers need it. 1 week he's giving heartfelt speeches about equality. The next he's casually dating a teenager, hitting on Lois again. He calls himself intellectual, but has the attention span of Peter during a book club. Brian's contradictions make him both fascinating and frustrating. The show treats him as the voice of reason, but his logic changes faster than the animation style. It's hard to take his moral high ground seriously when he's violated every other season. At this point, Brian isn't just a dog with human traits. He's a writer's mouthpiece with amnesia. If he ever met an earlier version of himself, they'd probably get into a political argument and both lose. Lois Pewterschmidt was born into ridiculous wealth. Her father owns a mansion, a yacht, and an island. Yet somehow she and Peter live paycheck to paycheck like they're on an episode of 90 Day Fiancé, Quahog edition. The money appears and disappears depending on the joke. Sometimes Lois is casually dropping that her dad's a billionaire. Other times she's fighting over grocery coupons.
Got groceries.
You what?
Yeah, I was driving past there and we were out of some stuff, so I...
You listen to me, you son of a bitch!
Even worse, the show can't decide how she feels about her own family. Half the time she hates their elitism, the other half she's bragging about being old money. If Lois's financial status made any sense, the Griffins would never struggle to pay bills. But logic in Family Guy lasts about as long as Brian's relationships. Her fortune gets rewritten more often than Peter's career history. At this point, Lois isn't middle class. She's multiverse class. Her net worth depends entirely on who's writing that week's episode. Remember when Stewie was a diabolical genius building time machines, cloning devices, and death rays? Lately, he's been downgraded to a sarcastic baby with a British accent and an iPad. The evil genius arc has been quietly erased, replaced with random side plots about fashion or therapy. It's not even gradual. One season he's rewriting history. The next he's crying because Brian forgot his birthday. The writers realize Stewie works better as comic relief than an actual villain, but they never bothered to explain the shift. The inconsistency creates wild tonal whiplash. We've seen him build technology that defies physics but can't figure out how to open a baby gate. Either he's pretending to be dumb for attention, or the show lost the manual on his IQ. Stewie's intelligence is now a Schrodinger's cat situation, simultaneously genius and idiot, depending on what gets the laugh. Peter Griffin is basically the test dummy for cartoon immortality. He's been shot, burned, exploded, electrocuted, and even survived a nuclear blast. All without a single hospital visit that lasts more than a scene. In Da Boom, he literally walks away from the end of the world.
Good morning, family. Hey, Lois, you remember when I was the third Hardy boy?
In PTV, he gets hit with a satellite dish and shrugs it off like it's a paper cut. Realistically, Peter should have died 700 times by now. The man's body is a walking insurance scam. Every injury just resets before the next cutaway gag. The logic is so broken it's like his DNA updates every commercial break. Even his weight fluctuates like it's running on animation lag. One episode he's slim enough to dance. The next he's collapsing stairs by breathing. There's no consistency, not even within the same episode. Peter isn't just a cartoon character, he's a narrative cheat code. The writers use his immortality to excuse anything, slapstick, gore, and explosions, and then move on. He's basically Quahog's answer to Wile E. Coyote. If Wile E. Coyote could also hold down a job at a brewery, the Griffin home has been destroyed more times than the average Call of Duty map. Fires, floods, chicken fights, meteors. It doesn't matter. By the next episode, it's spotless again, like Quahog has a 24-hour extreme makeover crew on standby. In Patriot games, Peter floods the house so badly it should have been condemned. In Meet the Quagmires, he changes the past entirely, yet somehow the same exact house exists in every timeline. Either the Griffins are secretly billionaires, or there's a Home Depot multiverse we don't know about. The funniest part? They have never once mentioned insurance. Peter wrecks property like it's a sport, but no one ever talks about how they afford to fix it. The house doesn't even age. Not a single crack, not a worn shingle, not one outdated appliance. At this point, the Griffin home is an architecture. It's a running gag with drywall. Cleveland Brown got a whole new family in the Cleveland show. Wife, stepkids, house, the works. But when he came back to Quahog, they vanished like they never existed. No Donna, no Rallo, no Roberta. Not even a postcard. The Griffins never ask where his family went, and Cleveland never mentions them. He just shows up at the Drunken Clam like he teleported from a reboot. It's not a retcon, it's a full timeline erasure. Even stranger references to the Cleveland show still exist within Family Guy. That means it's canon and non-canon simultaneously. The Schrodinger's spin-off of animated sitcoms. You'd think at least Peter would joke about it, but no one does. It's like the show wiped his entire life clean because continuity got inconvenient. Cleveland didn't move back. He respawned. Sometimes Lois sounds like a posh Rhode Island socialite. Other times she sounds like a completely different person. Her accent appears, disappears, and occasionally merges with random inflections like she's auditioning for multiple shows at once. It's subtle, but once you notice it, it's impossible to unhear. Early episodes leaned heavily on the upper-class New England tone. Peter! And while modern Lois sounds like she took voice lessons in Los Angeles, the transformation is never addressed, even though Family Guy constantly breaks the fourth wall. For a show that mocks itself every episode, ignoring Lois's vanishing accent might be its biggest missed opportunity. Maybe she's just subconsciously adapting to Peter's stupidity, her voice gradually leaving out of self-preservation. The characters in Family Guy don't age, they just accumulate trauma. Meg and Chris have been in high school for 20 years. Stewie's been a baby long enough to qualify for Social Security, and yet the show keeps referencing real-world events like time actually passes. We've had 9/11 episodes, COVID jokes, even TikTok references, but Stewie's still crawling around with a diaper and a British accent. It's like Quahog is stuck in a perpetual rerun where the calendar resets every morning. The writers even lampshade it sometimes. Haven't we been doing this for 20 years? But never explain how that's possible. Time moves forward and only when convenient, and backward when it's funny. If you mapped out the show's timeline, it would look like spaghetti. Maybe Quahog isn't in Rhode Island at all. Maybe it's in a time loop powered by plot convenience. Stewie builds a working time machine, a cloning device, mind control tech, and then forgets they exist. You'd think someone that smart would keep a backup. In one episode, he alters history. The next, he can't fix a broken toy. It's not that the tech disappears, it's that the writers delete it from existence when it stops serving the plot. His gadgets are like side characters, introduced dramatically, then erased when the episode ends. Sometimes they even reappear with new rules. His time machine runs on plutonium one week, lemon juice the next. The continuity around Stewie's genius is so flexible it's practically a quantum concept. He could solve half the show's problems instantly, but then there'd be no jokes. So the writers do what any good cartoon scientist would do. Pretend the lab never existed. Peter's job history is longer than an unemployment office line. He's been a toy factory worker, fisherman, news anchor, brewery employee, and even a superhero. The weird part? He never quits. He just stops showing up and nobody cares. Entire career arcs vanish mid-season. One week he's at the brewery, next week he's on welfare, then somehow he's back at the brewery like it's all normal. No promotions, no demotions, just pure sitcom teleportation. It's like each episode reboots his resume. Continuity in Family Guy is so loose, even LinkedIn couldn't track it. Peter's basically the Forrest Gump of employment. He's done everything, remembers none of it, and probably caused a few disasters along the way. Lois's parents, Carter and Babs Pewterschmidt, have looked exactly the same since 1999. By the show's logic, they should be 110 years old. They've outlived multiple side characters, world events, and at least 3 of Brian's relationships. Meanwhile, Lois hasn't aged a day, and her kids never grow up. It's like the entire Pewterschmidt bloodline discovered immortality through bad writing. Even worse, flashbacks contradict their own timelines. Lois was a rebellious teen in the 80s, yet somehow still in her 40s in 2024. At this point, the Pewterschmidts aren't people. They're continuity Easter eggs. Immortal, unchanging, and completely unbothered by time. In McStroke, Peter has a stroke, starts a burger restaurant, burns it down, and miraculously heals in days. Later episodes reference it as if it happened months apart. The math just doesn't work. The whole episode feels like the writers were speedrunning chaos. His recovery timeline breaks every rule of biology, logic, and decency. The man should be in rehab. Instead, he's grilling patties while slurring one-liners. The moral of McStroke seems to be that consequences don't exist, which, to be fair, is Family Guy's real motto. And then there were fewer. It's supposed to be a serious murder mystery, but the mansion's layout changes every other scene. Doors move, hallways vanish, characters teleport between floors. It's like Clue, if the house was alive. Even Diane's flashback contradicts her death sequence. It's cinematic chaos disguised as clever storytelling. The only thing consistent is how inconsistent everything is. It's a perfect metaphor for the show itself. Dramatic build-up, no payoff, total nonsense. And somehow still entertaining. At this point, calling Family Guy inconsistent is like calling Stewie a little weird. The show's timeline isn't broken. It's actively mocking the idea of continuity. Characters die, reappear, and act like it's Tuesday. But maybe that's the secret. The contradictions are the continuity. Family Guy exists in a world where logic takes a smoke break every episode, and that's why it works. It's chaos with perfect comedic timing. If you thought this was messy, just wait until you see how South Park breaks reality on purpose.